ein Yavo Ezri Ma'im Adonai Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz. רגליך על ינום שומריך הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל מכל רע ישמור את נפשך אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthew Brooks, and I'm one of the executive producers of the Solomon Saga. We are truly blessed to be here. Thank you all for watching the film and being with us today. I'm joined with Sylvia Caminer, director and executive producer, and Brad Lange, creator and executive producer. We're excited to talk about the short, chat with our cast, answer some of your questions that have been coming in, and discuss the upcoming series and the pilot.
All right, so here we are. We were filming almost, what, a year ago, guys? A little less. We finished about 3 days before Christmas, I think. We're just going to give another minute because I think people are signing on. It's like 5:02, so we're very exciting. It's nice to see your guys' faces. All right.
We had a lot of showing on the YouTube so far.
Yeah.
27,000 already in less than 24 hours.
Yeah, it's exciting. Very, very exciting.
Thank you for all your hard work, guys.
Yeah, you too. You too. All right, Matt, I think you can.
Let's get started, I guess. Where did all this start? Well, we get some of those questions, kind of the history, a little bit of the history. Brad and I were friends in high school only 10 years ago. After
Yeah, right.
After we moved, well, both of us moved across the country, and this was before cell phones, so we lost touch. And after 15 years, we just kind of randomly found out that we lived within miles of each other here in Texas. Um, Over those years, as our friendship continued, we found something was missing in our lives and spiritually. And so we independently, he and I both had this desire to learn more about Solomon. And only did I find out that he decided to write a story about it. At that time, um, it was intriguing for me. And he wrote an unbelievable story. And so that was his job as the creator, was to kind of create the story and bring it to you guys. Mine was to get it in front of you, which is where we are today. So that brings us to our first question from Bria Hope. What was the inspiration that sparked the desire to bring the story of Solomon to life? Brad, you want to tell us where the idea of creating the story for you originated? How did that come to you, and what made you want to pursue all of that?
Yeah, so limited amount of time. I could probably talk about this for a good hour, but I won't do that to everybody involved. But I mean, truth be told, that when I read the story of Solomon the first time, it stopped me in my tracks. Um, Initially, it was how visually stunning I sort of envisioned his kingdom. 3,000 years ago, he builds the temple and he has all this harmony within his kingdom, and he's it's furnished with gold. It's been described as the golden kingdom. So the sheer beauty of it all, I felt like, boy, I don't want people just to read this story. I want people to see it. So how do we figure out a way to recreate this and put it on a screen? That was my first thought. I was like, this is gorgeous. This when reading the text, it seemed gorgeous to me. And then, the compelling storylines coupled with that are obvious. The storylines jump off the page. I mean, we're talking about the wisest man to ever live, the wisest king to ever live. He has this vast wealth. He has 600 wives. I mean, this stuff, I couldn't even believe what I was reading. And then you find out he's a little bit ruthless, which is kind of fascinating, honestly. But the text is interesting in Solomon's story, in that it's so different from David, in that there's a lot of interesting storylines, but not a lot of storytelling. So I felt like it lent the creative team or creative person the opportunity to be more creative with some of the storylines. So I found that to be like, what an opportunity. I couldn't believe nobody had tried this, honestly. And then lastly, really the unknowns of the story, the gaps, was like, that's wild. I mean, Solomon is so ambitious and he's got all these goals and he's just humming along, and you're reading the text and you're like, this guy's dominating. He's got influence, prestige, wealth. I mean, historians will tell you that, some will tell you that he's comparable to a modern day trillionaire. So, I mean, we're talking about I couldn't believe what I was reading. And then he squanders it. It all ends abruptly, and he's erecting monuments and altars for detestable foreign gods. And you're like, wait, how did that happen? So what was going on within the kingdom? What was happening inside of his kingdom? More importantly, what was happening inside Solomon's mind? I wanted to explore the turmoil that was taking place inside Israel. That's it.
Well, thank you, Brad. Before we go any further, I did want to introduce Sylvia Caminer. Sylvia spent over 20 years directing and producing film and television. She produced more than 15 feature films, directed 3 of them, and her work spans award-winning documentaries, thrillers, a global travel series. She is a 2-time Emmy winner, the series director producer for Samantha Brown's International Travel Show. She brings an extraordinary amount of experience and vision to this project, and we're very pleased to have her. We're very pleased to have her in our path. Sylvia, tell us what drew you to this story and what you wanted to bring to this proof of concept specifically.
Boy, it's a loaded question. So I have wanted to get into this space for a long time. I mean, biblical storytelling for probably going on 20 years. And I find that right now it's such an exciting time. Obviously, there's just so much out there that's so good, both film and television. And so when Max was a guy that Brad had reached out to who was working with you, Brad, on the story and developing it into a screenplay. Initially, this was
Correct.
conceived as a feature film. And so when they reached out to me, Max wanted me to come on and help produce this as a film. And I thought, wow, Solomon, fascinating. You know, he's an epic character. A lot of what Brad was talking about earlier, it made me very passionate about this. I was like, gosh, this character, you know, as a director, you want a character with a long runway, with an arc that's, you know, I mean, his arc, it's like it starts at he's so perfect. He's passionate about God. He loves his father. He's been brought up in this world where he's seen betrayal within their own bloodline. And but yet he knows that his father's beloved by God. And so there's so much range and so much, it's like an intersection between faith and love and power. And so I thought, gosh, if we can weave that into a series, I almost from the beginning thought it was too big to stay in that 120 or 100-minute world. I mean, my goodness, if this doesn't have a couple seasons. I mean, we're going to talk about that down the road, but you know, so it was just so exciting. And then I knew like, okay, so we have a limited budget. You know, I'm very budget minded. I'm a director who produces. So, you know, we had talked about always having three characters. You know, Max and I then started talking about, well, how do we show a really interesting snapshot of the most important moments maybe in Solomon's life that will make the audience feel like, oh, there's such a complexity here and we would watch this show and we'll become rabid fans. That's what we wanted to do. So then, Brad, I know we started talking with you and looking at the script and really thinking about, because at the heart, it's a story between a father and son. And it's, as I mentioned, there's a lot of tragedy. So we wanted to explore that. And then we wanted to show Solomon as an innocent and even a first love. Let him have that moment and see that innocence and passion. And then maybe jump forward 3 years. You know, we kind of figured we'd add a few years and, you know, just see where he's starting to go and hint at the path that we all know what's coming. But we thought it would be way more interesting if you saw a real soft side to him first, which I know we're really going to lean into in the series. So as you see, it's rich. You know, I feel incredibly blessed that I've been allowed to even tell this piece of it, and I can't wait to keep on this journey with you guys.
Yeah,
Likewise.
it's been great so far. Well, at this stage, let's do what everybody wants to see. We're so excited to hear. They don't want to hear from us too much. We're excited to hear from our incredible cast. We're so blessed to
Woohoo!
have them. Please welcome Luke Dimyan, Chloe Avakian, and Erick Avari. Three
Guys,
amazing people.
yay! It's so
Hello.
nice to see everybody together because we haven't, you know, I've spoken with all of you guys and Eric, you and I talk a bit but I haven't seen you with, you know, Eric with, you know, Luke and Chloe. So seeing you guys together is really fun. And
Yeah,
they
it's
were
been
at the
it's been a
screening,
year.
which was fun.
Well, it's fun to be here.
Good. Yeah. Well, good. So we're going to spend some time. I thought, you know, we'll just kind of dive right in. And I think we'll just start. We'll go a little bit in order of how it happened. So as a director, like I always tell people, especially, you know, young filmmakers that, you know, you're only as good as your weakest actor. And that includes background talent. So you know, my first job was, how do I cast this? And Eric, I have been wanting to work with you for 15 years. We met at a festival. We've talked about this and we don't really remember, right? Was it Albuquerque or,
I can't remember where,
right? But then I
but
saw
if
you.
I may jump in here real
Yeah.
quick, because I was just thinking about this, you know, after I left Hollywood, you know, a lot of my friends sort of fell away. You didn't.
No.
So, when we reconnected and, this was even before this whole
Yes.
project came up, but
Mhm.
when you approached me about it, it was something quite special because I do remember that, you were one of those handful of friends who my being in Hollywood or being in the business had nothing to do with our friendship. So it meant a lot to me. So,
Oh.
little
Oh, thank
digression.
you, Eric. Yeah, no, I treasured that friendship because yeah, we were very much in touch for a number of years. And I think what happened was I saw your portrayal of Nicodemus and I was blown away. And I wrote you an email, and we hadn't spoken maybe in a year and a half. And then we kind of got back in touch. And I'll tell you, right away, I thought, oh my gosh, Eric, King David, like I have 20 minutes to get this vision. How do I you can't bring an actor that has to warm people up. He's gotta be King David from that first frame. And so I thought, oh my gosh, if I can get Eric. So what was it? And I know we've talked a little bit about this, but tell us, what was it about this kind of this approach to that relationship or King David that made you want to do this?
A large part of it, I will say, was our personal relationship. I did
Mhm.
want to work with you, and I thought, what a wonderful opportunity. Secondly, the project itself, starting with a, a lot of what Brad was talking about earlier, in terms of the scope of King Solomon, it's so intriguing and so vast. That was something that was very compelling. And then about David himself. I knew very little about him other than being a little guy myself. I always had a penchant to those stories of the little guy vanquishing the giant, and the bigger they are, the harder they fall. I love that, But the whole story of how he, how did he come to this? And looking at it in a very practical way. Um, how did a little guy vanquish a giant, right?
Right.
It took a lot of training and practice and a mindset and a driving force, right? To work at not necessarily vanquishing the giant, but developing his skill and honing the skill of his, right? That was wonderful. Then the whole story of David and his legacy that he's built, and the wives and how he acquired them, shall we say, and all of that. It's very biblical, but also so contemporary, in this that we the intrigue, the interpersonal relationships within his family,
Mhm.
all that stuff was very much like I see it as the Godfather-esque kind of relationships, where you're building alliances with someone, you're setting someone else up to take the fall, all of that I thought was really intriguing and so modern, that I wanted to be a
Yeah,
part of that.
right. Yeah, and it's also not done much. That was something that really intrigued me. We don't see anything much about David at the last parts of his life. So that was something I really wanted to, which I look forward to digging into more in the future. So Luke, let's talk quickly about you. So like Eric, I thought, oh my gosh, Solomon. And like him, your face came to me. And we've never worked together. We don't know each other. Of course, I'd seen your work. Um, but and then I remember we had a conversation, and it was, you know, you were thinking about it, but we wanted to talk and make sure that we kind of would approach it in the same way and see if there was a trust there. And I'll never forget in that first conversation, you either said it was your favorite or one of your absolute favorite, the story of David in scripture. You that was your favorite story, and I think you even said, I've always wanted to tackle, you know, that story or think about it, or, you know, so what was it that made you want to jump into another such kind of controversial you know, to take on a role like Solomon in this short piece?
Well, I was definitely an Old Testament fella growing up. When it came to my preferences in the Bible, I couldn't tell you. Maybe it was the legendary aspects of those stories that seemed so ancient and epic in scale. But it was especially kind of like what Eric said. What I what I loved about David so much growing up is he was this little guy, and even compared to, he was the youngest of his brothers. He was small in stature. He and in when he became king, even he was just smaller. And growing up, I was of smaller stature. I still am quite small compared to heck, even some of my castmates. So there was something about someone being so meek and small and little and achieving such amazing, great, heroic things that I think was just very inspiring for a little kid to read and look up to, especially when it came to biblical narratives. So I was already very attached to David's story, and I always thought that Solomon's was understandably more overlooked. His was more politically and structurally affiliated than heroic, grand gestures of accomplishments. So it made sense where people would kind of more overlook him and uh, judge him quickly based on what was given. And so when you guys sent the script over to me and you guys reached out, first I was like, what? Me?
Remember you said
You sure? There's like 12 other guys on the same
you
show
said that
that
to
are
me. You're
just
like,
as
there's
good. But I was very flattered, and also a chance to I think I also very selfishly heard that Eric was attached, and I got naturally excited because I had seen his work on our show, but I've also seen his work across so
who
many
hasn't?
films that I admire. And
Right.
so immediately off of that, I was like, oh, well, I gotta get in the room with him. I need to at least have like an idea, some gumption to play tit for tat with literally an industry legend. And so I looked at the scenes and I thought, why not? I don't think I'm ever gonna get another chance to play a prince, a king in any capacity again. So why not say yes to the dress in this moment? And I
Right.
put it on, and it felt pretty nice. It was a dress. I remember
That's
tripping
right. It was,
multiple
yes.
times in the costume. That was
Lisa, amazing,
long.
amazing work with those costumes. So I just have to say at this moment, like the fact that I got my first two choices for the two male leads, like that doesn't happen in my 20 years of being in this business. I don't know that I've ever even gotten one first choice, let alone two. So I felt very spoiled. And so I remember thinking, okay, so now the girl. And Max reminded me about Chloe Avakian, who made such an impression on us. We auditioned Chloe for something, gosh, a year and a half ago, Chloe, maybe
Hmm.
2 years ago.
Maybe
You
2 years.
lived, and that hasn't happened yet. So it was like, oh, we went off and did it. No, we've been thinking about Chloe. And so when he mentioned her, I was like, oh my gosh, what I remember, that innocence, that beauty, that inner strength that I
Mm.
knew we needed for this role made me want to reach out to you immediately. So we kind of sent you the script. You looked at it, and I'm just wondering, like, first off, two things. I told you who you were playing opposite, both coming out of obviously a big biblical show.
Mhm.
So was there any kind of like, not intimidation, but was there something you were like eager to just be like, I got this? And then also, what did you want to say with this role? Like, this is a strong female role who kind of stands toe to toe, and that's not by accident. It's something that we're interested in pursuing. So
Yeah. I mean, it was it felt like full circle when I got that call from you, because I really, like, when I initially auditioned for Who Will Remember, which is the other film, like,
Yeah.
connected with me really deeply. And it was a story about the Armenian genocide, and that is something that, you know, affected my family when that happened. So hearing this call, which was about something that's also like feels very topical, feels like, you know, like something, that a story that people would want to hear, and that I think that they should hear. I was stoked. And then seeing who was cast, I mean, I've got family members who are huge fans of The Chosen, so I had seen, even in theaters, they took me to the theater to go see some of the new episodes that came out. So I was like, oh, it just was such a random kind of, full circle thing to get to shoot this on that set and with you guys. And pretty surreal, and in such a short amount of time too, that we had like met each other. You know, obviously you guys knew each other. The crew had all been working on that show for, I mean, forever, right? But everybody was so welcoming, and it was such a beautiful experience. And this character too is to answer your second question, which was what drew me to the role, right? That was it. That was the question.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of answered what drew you
Yeah.
in. And was there something about her strength
Yeah.
that you really wanted to?
This is my favorite kind of character to play, and I've been so blessed to be able to play female characters who have that self-sacrificial kind of nature, where they can see what needs to be done around them, and, you know, and hold the people around them accountable, and in a way that kind of is above personal relationships. And I don't know, I love that kind of person, because it's a very unusual kind of character to play. I think, you know, you don't see
Yeah.
that very often. So to get to be someone who still has personal struggles, but is able to kind of see the right decisions and follow through, and try to be a light for the people around her, try to be a healing force for the people around her, even though she's sort of a pawn in this political game. Yeah, I mean, it's such a huge, all of that is a lot, but really fun to play with, and to play with on such a intimate level.
Yeah,
And these scenes are very intimate.
they are. And the thing we also really liked and wanted to get across was her education, because it probably wasn't that common that a young woman was that educated in scripture and read and wrote and had deep thought. But
And is able to be
it's certainly not
outspoken.
impossible to believe. There were, you know.
Not only is she educated, but she's outspoken.
Right.
Even though, you know, when she says something that may be out of line, she's able to kind of bring it back and be like, how was that received?
Right.
She has that kind of like inner guiding force and connection to God that, you know, kind of cuts through some of the court politics, and it's just very true to her. Like the passion for what she studied, and the passion for her education. Yeah, very cool girl for her time.
Yes, very cool. Yes, Eric?
I need to jump in here. I know this is very
Please.
structured, but I just wanted to say, you know, Chloe's performance, it just really struck me when I got to see the whole thing, because it's something that, you know, we were talking, you mentioned about strength, and strength from a young woman, just actually even a woman's strength. It's something that has conflicted me a great deal, because I feel like it's something that's so misunderstood or misperceived, that we feel that women need to be strong like a man is strong. And I've always rebelled against this. And what I loved about Chloe's performance was that it was this quiet strength with dignity, with grace, but with firm resolve, and a spine that is there, you know. I loved it. I just loved it,
Thank you.
and I needed to say that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's what I was going for.
Thank you, Eric.
You
Thank you.
nailed it. You
Thank
just
you.
nailed it.
I couldn't agree more. So we're going to watch a couple clips, and I just want to address something here just quickly. So it's hard to avoid noticing we shot on the set of The Chosen. I'm very thankful to, 5 and 2 and Out of Order and Dallas Jenkins, but we are a separate project. We were strangers, and they decided to let us film on their sets, and we are incredibly thankful. They helped us capture a moment of this story and bring it to life. And we had an amazing crew. We hired a bunch of their crew, Keith and James Cunningham. I mean, so many people, I can't go into it, but probably one of the best crews I've ever worked with in my years. So smooth and loving and kind and brilliant. And so I just wanted to kind of explain that little collaboration, and that it was kind of thank you. And okay, so let's watch some clips. We're going to watch 2 clips. The first clip we're going to watch is a short clip with Solomon and David, and we'll watch and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
God's will shared to me in a dream. But even now, we must watch our backs. The Adonijah.
I know, Father. I'm watching it.
You must build the Lord's temple. Do not let this burden fall to anyone else. Promise me, son.
It will be done. Nothing will stand in my way.
Just a light moment. um,
Casual family moment.
that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much in this scene, just that the father-son dynamic. I know that really intrigued both of you in taking on this part. But let's talk about that moment. I mean, for each of you, I'd love to just hear, like, what were you trying to get across at that moment? And I know we talked a bit about that. Let's just dissect that a little bit. Who wants to
I
jump in?
yeah, it's I think when me and Eric were in that moment, it was very fun to just watch with just his words and his energy how much space he took, and the time and specifications on each movement it was for me, it was kind of great. It was like I was getting like a learning experience as well, but how without putting too much pressure, there was just this weight that he would give, like he was trying to release this weight from him, and as Solomon, I was having to take it on. And so both he would just kind of like lean on me physically, but then also unleash this burden, this pressure of the necessities of the crown that in his time he's running out to complete. But to Solomon, he's like, oh, you got it, kid. Take it. Run with it. Go. Have fun.
And what about you, Eric?
Yeah, I think the pressure of time, the older one gets, the more you realize that window is, and I think David absolutely knows that this is it. He's very close, and I think one can feel that and the urgency to get this across. And there was also an implication in my head that these were conversations that he had not had with Solomon. So we're breaking through barriers. And Solomon breaks through it by asking some very direct questions. And it's sort of startling. And you realize this, wow, we have a huge hurdles and huge bridges to build here in a very short time, and we've got to get all these bits of information across while we still have these few moments of time together. So it was an urgency and this weight that made it exciting for me, to be trying to communicate this, that the clock is ticking and the information is vast. All this intrigue. I mean, my goodness, it's all these characters, and there's so much backstory. And, again, to your point about about this being a series rather than a film, because there is all this backstory, and so that made it compelling for me, to try to get some of that across.
Yeah, and this is a part of the story that I can't wait to have that time to build. You and I would have conversations. How do we talk about Absalom? And there's so much more to that story that there's not time in 20 minutes to explain Amnon, and so I can't wait to have time but that will be in the future. Um all right, let's look at the next scene. So now we jump ahead 3 years, and we start to see a little crack. And this is one of those scenes that you're like, oh no. So let's play that scene.
I will be taking the princess of Egypt to be my wife. Before you speak, let me. We must maintain peace with the surrounding empires. Otherwise, the temple will be vulnerable to raiders.
Solomon, it is written, the Lord forbids taking foreign wives.
I do not love the Egyptian woman.
I don't.
Another light.
It is written. So it's
Dang
kind
it,
of
she's
awkward.
right. No Egyptians.
Whew.
None. Sorry.
So
None for you.
so we'll start with you, Chloe, but we can Luke jump in as you like.
Kid.
This is again that kind of strength and us leaning into, especially, even though this was a proof of concept, we're always thinking big picture and leaning into stories and thinking down the road for episodes 3, 4, 5, So this was, and we planted a seed earlier in scene 2 when you guys are out in the garden, where you kind of let him know, like, you'll being good to the king is important, but God will always be my number one. So talk a little bit about that and bringing that home here, and not just being a bashful, accepting wife at that moment, and what that meant to you and how you guys wanted
Yeah.
to.
I mean, one of my favorite moments in that scene is the turning around after he breaks the news and just having a minute to think. And I love the way that you shot that, Sylvia, and Akis, and like, because there are, you have to collect yourself in that moment. What are we gonna do? He's just dropped this bomb, and in the end, like, she's the person who she's staying steadfast to the truth that she knows from God, and all the personal feelings come up, but then it's all kind of like silenced by, well, the truth of it, which is like, you can't do that. You can't do that with your responsibility as king. Like, say psych. You're not doing that. And of course he doesn't listen, but can lead a horse to water.
Right.
Yeah. But she can't not say the truth that she feels in that moment. And that's what's so powerful, and what is strong about this character is how committed she is to the truth and the biblical truth. Yeah.
Right.
That's what happens when you let a girl read. She's gonna
That's right. She talks up. And Luke, we had so many conversations about showing the soft side and the love. And so just tell us a little bit about what you were feeling and what you were trying to kind of get across in that moment when you kind of walk away from her. You need that space to kind of tell her what you're about to.
I think Solomon makes the same mistake that I think every married man makes, where he knows he's done something to upset her, so he tries every single trick in the book to try to soften the blow. But the same mistake that he makes, that every married man makes, is not realizing, like, no, that doesn't that's not gonna help anything. You're like, okay, so I'm
lavender.
gonna look, I got you gifts and
A second
presents,
wife.
and there's gonna be a bath. It's so nice. By the way, I did this small little thing. It's no big deal. And then he just cushions it with all this logic. It's like, oh, no, 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 it's for the kingdom. It's for this. It's fine. I promise. It'll be fine. But eventually, as you see, the logic doesn't doesn't cover up the misdeed of taking on a complete new foreign wife, which is, I think, is hilarious because I don't even think it's the issue of taking another wife, because even King David had a harem, but it's the idea of having a foreign wife, which is the whole, I mean, that's the whole biblical standard. Anyway, gets into more specifics that I can't even speak to, lest
Right.
I say something silly.
Yeah. And so this was kind of the third, really important thing that we wanted to get across in this short, was this kind of like deviation from Solomon's innocence and the betrayal to their love, in a sense, and Deborah's strength. And so from here, we go to that beautiful chapel scene where we again wanted to show that strength and also that calling out. And so, at that moment when we end the film there, I I knew we needed that, such a powerful moment, Chloe, when we feel that torture, but also there's a pride in you. There's a, this can't be right. You're so sure of your faith in God and that no, this is not your plan. And so you're also calling out for God to help Solomon.
Mm.
And so I didn't, it's funny, you feel like, oh, the film's over, just go to score. But I was, I really thought, this is such an important pause and a beat that I think needs to land, and the audience needs to have time to sit with it. So I remember searching for music. I thought I really wanted to find something ancient and in the language that they spoke, maybe or close to it, because they probably spoke more classical Hebrew than current Hebrew. But and so I remember going on YouTube and I found this song. It was called Psalm 121. And I listened to it. And within the first 30 seconds, it was almost like being struck by light. And I was like, oh my gosh, it just hit me in my core somehow. And then I heard the voice and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to have it. And then I'll never forget, I looked up and I saw 10 million views. And I said, oh, are we ever going to get this song? How am I going to reach out to? But thankfully, Joshua said, okay. We're welcoming Joshua Aaron. We're going to
Hi,
talk to
Sylvia.
the cast again in a few minutes. Joshua, thank you so much. You are, a pretty legendary musician. You, gosh, am I right? Did I read this right? Have you had almost half a billion streams of your music? Can that be?
Something like 400 and something, I think. Yeah.
That's
Million, I think so. Yeah.
that's
Well, glory
pretty
to God.
remarkable. That
Glory
that
to
is
God.
yeah, that is absolutely incredible. So this is such an important moment. Psalm 121 was it felt like of course, Lord, this is what we need. She's crying out to God. What is so important to you about Psalm 121 that you actually wanted to turn it into a song?
Man, well, it already is it already was a song,
It
So
was.
for me, as a Jewish believer in Jesus, I love the book from Genesis to Revelation, But there's something about opening up the word and reading it. I've got this Bible here is in Hebrew and English, like left and right. So you read the English and you want to just dig a little deeper, you just go to the right, the left. And Psalm 121 is, I will lift my eyes to the mountains. From where shall my help come? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And the essence is, the summary is, he who watches over Israel, he doesn't sleep, he doesn't slumber. So I, even just the melody that I wrote to it, because King David wrote it, really, I just was picturing just a crying out, like a lie, 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 just crying out, like, please keep watching over, please keep protecting my family. So for me, it was, I just knew I needed to sing it, and I just had a melody, and I was reading the psalm at the same time, and the melody married the words from the book.
That's great. So what do you hope listeners, there's going to be listeners that obviously they'll know maybe Psalm 121. They might not understand the lyrics. So what are you trying to kind of, you kind of explain this a little bit, but what are you hoping that they walk away with, after listening to
Well,
this?
Well, first of all, when you asked that, you're hoping I'd say yes. Well, like I was like, absolutely, of course. Wow, I can't believe it. I'm honored that you'd use this song. But honestly, you know, yes, it's in Hebrew. Most people won't understand it. That's why I made sure the title was Psalm 121. I always tell people that I love the song. I just don't know the words. Like, well, just open Psalm 121. It's eight verses in Psalm 121. But we recorded it a few times, but this version that you use, we recorded it live in Jerusalem. So we're at the Tower of David, just inside the old city wall. So what they're hearing is a piece of Jerusalem. The band that we had were Israelis, and it was really it's a piece from Israel, not just the words I'm singing, but the sound that they're hearing. And I also believe that God's word, his word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. And I just think that I think the takeaway, and what I hear a lot when I travel and sing, especially from Christians, is there's just something about hearing God's word in Hebrew, in the original language. So I think that's something that people are always blessed by. Not necessarily when I sing, but just when you hear music sung in its, especially God's words sung in the language that it was originally written in. I think that's also always something I hear often. That's a takeaway. That's a blessing to people.
That's great. Well, good. I was going to ask you a little bit about that and you answered that. So thank you.
Okay.
No, that's great. Brad was going to ask you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joshua, for being so generous with your song. It's just, it's such a climactic ending to our film, and it just, Sylvia hit the nail on the head. It was just the perfect song, the perfect melody as the credits come up, and I mean, the icing on the cake, really. But what has surprised you most about like how audiences have responded to your song? Like, do you get feedback?
Yeah, when I do albums, I probably sing 80% English, and then there's the songs like Psalm 121, I sing in Hebrew. And then we'll go back and look and we'll see, like this particular song, when we released it from the Tower of David recording in Jerusalem, I think that was the #1 song. And I thought, man, people would want to, the song that they want to hear was the one that was in English or that they understood, But yeah, I think, like I was, referring to before, like I really feel like there's a desire, and I don't think all of us know how to put words to it. There's a desire to understand God deeper. And there's a draw when you're hearing something that's like you're going back in time when you're hearing the ancient words. So yeah, I think that's don't know how to explain it, but it seems like Christians in this era, there's this desire, especially watching this premiere, this first episode. People want to see the life of Saul. They want to open the Bible and dive in, and that's what you're doing with this show. And I feel like this song really fits that as well.
Yeah, Joshua, I mean, to hear your song at the end, like Brad said, is amazing, and it's wonderful to hear that you're doing your mission is ours. Our mission is to do exactly the same. Is to bring that love of this era of this story to life, and people are interested, and so it's good that we've brought both your music and our story together. But on a final note, is there any projects that you're currently working on, upcoming release that you'd like to mention?
Yes, absolutely. Just last a month and a half ago, I was in. We've got approved. I think you'd appreciate this because you're making pieces of Jerusalem and sharing with people, make pieces of Israel. And we recorded a live album at the Tower of David. Then we did one at the Garden Tomb in Jerusalem. And I've been praying for years if I can get to the ancient city of Magdala. I'm good friends with the priests there, and they've never allowed anybody to do recordings there because it's the actual site where Jesus stood. It's a 2,000-year-old synagogue that they just discovered in 2009. So we just recorded a live album, a full album with a Middle Eastern orchestra, standing on the actual synagogue, the actual pieces of stone. where Jesus, Yeshua, once stood. So that's the new project we're working on. We just recorded it, and now it's in post-production. We're doing all the audio mixing, and then next January, I'll be back in Israel doing the video edits. So it's called Joshua Aaron Live at Magdala at the ancient synagogue.
Well, thank you so much. It's great. I'll send you a shirt.
Yes, I want a shirt so bad.
We're gonna have more to come, but yes, thank you, Joshua.
Thank you,
I can't wait to
Joshua.
hear the
Thank you. Thanks,
album.
Chloe, Luke, Eric.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brad. Thanks, Matt. Sylvia, thank you so much for letting me be a part of this.
My pleasure. Thank you. All right, so now we're gonna bring Kat and our cast back. All right. Okay, so Kat, all the way from Brazil. So early on, Melanie, our amazing social media person, said, "Oh, there's someone from Brazil who messaged," and we got on a chat together because I love Brazil. I've been there twice. You know, I've always wanted to learn Portuguese. I've been to Portugal, and I know they're very different languages. They're different. I've learned that. But you know, you're doing our subtitles. You already did our subtitles, so people can now watch our film with Brazilian Portuguese subtitles. Like, that's so precious. And so we really wanted to honor the Brazilian fans, and we thought, how better? Let's have Kat come on. And she's so passionate. She's going to ask each of you guys a question. So take us away.
Okay. I just want to say thank you, because it's a big pleasure, not just for the Solomon Saga, but to be a part of The Chosen and many others productions that I have been helping in these 2 years that in social media. So I have some questions. I have the pleasure to watch the Solomon Saga a little bit earlier than the others, and I told Sylvia that it was incredible short film. I love the quality, and as a Brazilian, I know how fans love Erick Avari. It's a big pleasure to, like, when I told to everyone, like, hey, I will be on live with Eric, and people were like, oh my God, like, people really love you. And look to people really like you. I have the pleasure to also manage your fan club here in Brazil, representing, show a kind of funny look, not out of the character. And Chloe, you are gorgeous. Like, the first thing that all Brazilian fans say is that you are gorgeous. So I'm gonna start the questions, starting with the ladies. So, you represent your character. Your character is it's a woman that is so important for Solomon, for this change from King David to King Solomon to Israel. But it's a woman that we don't have too much information. So my question is, who you thought when you create your character, like if you thought in a woman in the Bible, if you inspire in a woman in the Bible, or anything like this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. Honestly, the one who inspired me the most was Devorah, which in the film, Avishag's biggest inspiration is Devorah, and it was the same for me, because that was kind of the obvious first choice for me to be like, I need to dive into this character of Devorah and see who Avishag wants to emulate the most in her life. So I did as much research as I could. You know, I'm not a summary girl. I'm like, I'll deep dive. I love an academic kind of deep dive for a character. So I did a bunch of research on her, and, you know, tried to take the traits that I thought Avishag wanted to emulate the most. And yeah, it was really inspiring to read these stories in the Bible of women who I honestly had never heard of before. So it was a blessing to have this opportunity to go deeper into that.
Yeah, and that's it. Thank you. And now for Erick Avari. So from what we have seen so far, it's your David isn't the version that most people know from industry, that it's a young boy that with a sling, 5 stones, and we see an older man fragile when full of regrets. So what do you think that we can learn from the final days of the great King Dave?
Well, don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. I think is the big lesson. I think that that's something that he feels, as we were talking about earlier. I think he feels compelled to get this information across because it's vital in order to reach the objective of building the temple. And so, I mean, I think that is one. And I think the other one that we learn is he sees that gap between father and son, and he's trying to bridge that at this point in his, condensed time that he's got left. And I
Yeah.
think that's what brings that urgency to the scenes. There's a wonderful moment when Solomon's about to leave and he says, we'll talk about this tomorrow. And it's just one line. And David says, questions, and he says, tomorrow. And it's such a beautiful moment, because he realizes there may not be a tomorrow. So it's those kinds of moments that I think are really very universal. It doesn't have to be on a biblical level. These are very interpersonal relationships, as I said, very modern.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is the most important. It's the same that I have been watching, like the short film, the Solomon Saga. It showed that the people from the Bible are human, right? Like this, human. They're like us, right? So look. So we have you as King Solomon. So what makes you oh wait. Okay. What makes a character on the when we make a character on the big screen is truly human in the raw truth and the clear evidence of their flaws? How do you think that people can connect it with the Solomon on their ups and downs, maybe?
Yeah, I think that when an audience sees a character with flaws, if anything, that makes them more relatable. That's the parts that you can see that's actually funny enough in yourself. A lot of people like to see characters that they can aspire to and that they can look up to, these paragons of perfection. But I think, like you said, the benefit that I think a lot of people have enjoyed from The Chosen and that are starting to enjoy from this show as well is those flaws. They are more human. It isn't just base text told of their greatest deeds. It specifies and it dives deeper into those characters, and those are my favorite things to try and bring out. Like with Solomon, he's so technical. I think when I was going into him and just playing with him, I feel like he has such a confidence that he knows, even if there is a problem, he can solve it. Like he's intellectually a guy who can fix anything with enough wit, cleverness, and guile. But in that same sense, because everything is so binary in his head of like, oh, yeah, no, if that's a problem, then I could just do this. There's an emotional detachment from the consequences or giving certain forms of empathy to other people, like his beloved Devora and Avishag, depending on the scene, or even his father when he's so quick to just like, well, I need to talk to you about this. If it's not the time, then it's not the time. Then he'll leave. But then his father's like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to waste this moment? And that's when the emotional context hits him. And he's like, oh no, I do. I want to hang out with my dad. I miss my dad. I love my dad. And you don't realize until he starts to break down in those minor moments when he's no longer in control, where you see his softness and you're like, oh, that's right, I do that too. I don't want to be I don't want to be gentle and soft around my dad, until you realize, oh, that's all I've wanted to do. All I want is for my dad to be like, I'm proud of you, I love you, let's hug it out. And you're like, oh, friggin' finally, only took 30 years. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Kat.
You're
Really
welcome.
appreciate your passion and just you're such a beautiful soul. So thank you. Help us reach the rest of Latin America. We have to- So
I hope
anyway.
all of you in Brazil.
Yes, I
soon.
know. Start
Soon.
there. I'll have Mel reach out. All right, Kat, thank you so much. And now we're
Okay.
going
Thank
to
you,
bring
Kat.
Matt back
You're
up.
Thank you so much.
And all right. Ooh, it's time is flying. So I just want to start by saying thank you, thank you, thank you, Luke, Eric, Chloe. You breathed life into these characters, and I can't imagine this journey without the three of you. And it's been such a blessing in my life. And you know, I'm really, really proud of the work that we all did, and I hope there's many opportunities ahead. But okay, so Luke, I know we announced kind of in August that you started kind of working a little behind the camera and joining kind of the creative team to start working on the pilot, which we are developing right now, and you're doing an amazing job. So tell us just, you know, a little bit about that and your decision to move from, you know, acting to writing.
Well, I think I mostly have to thank you, Sylvia, and you and Matt and Brad, because while we were, I think in the middle of the filming and doing the scenes, and afterwards, I had so many questions and ideas, and I just thought at first like, oh, if I maybe write a few scenes, if I have a few pitches, I can just send it to them, and then either they'll like them and maybe they'll use them later on for the character or not. And there's no harm. So literally while we were filming season 6, I was with my laptop just like writing stuff out for them, and I sent it along. I was like, we'll see. And you guys were so responsive and so interested to see and like see more that I think naturally my my writing side, that side of my creativity started to take a hold. And when it came to writing the pilot, it was a simple question. It was like, we need a pilot. Would you? And I was like, sure. I mean, I don't mind. I don't know if it's going to be any good. So I just wrote a rough draft, and it seemed like that's where I found strength in the show. That's where I
Yeah,
found like a maybe a better supporting
yeah,
form in the
right.
show,
And
in
we're going
that
to talk a
creative
little
aspect.
bit more about this, but you know, just to be clear, we are saying goodbye to Luke Dimyan as playing Solomon in the series, but you are behind, you're staying in the journey, and you're going to be writing and working with us on the pilot, which is already coming along beautifully.
Exactly. It
Chloe,
felt like a conflict of interest as I continued to
yeah,
do the behind the scenes writing of it. It was like,
it's a
it
bit
would be
much.
weird if I continued writing and having all this creative input, and then I also was the lead of the show, especially when our fan base is so familiar with me in a different biblical image. I think it would just hurt the show in the long run of trying
Yeah,
to, no matter which, again, I think my favorite part is that we got to make this short film together, like this cast and
agreed.
with this script. And it's so much easier, at least in my head as an actor, to communicate or decipher another person's writing and to bring my own spin to it. But if it's my own writing, I'm like, I feel like it's already tainted by me. I don't need a second say on a different form. And
Right.
so and
Yes.
so
Well,
everything was so perfect with the short film. I feel like going forward for the benefit of the show, I think that's why I decided to step away from playing Solomon if and when the series continues to grow, and instead
yeah.
just support it in a different creative form.
Yeah, we agonized over it a bit, and it was still, you know, sometimes
We
you'd be like,
did.
maybe no. Anyway, so Chloe,
You lovingly poke, and I'm
I
like,
know I would
this is
poke you
nice.
sometimes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Chloe, you did such an amazing job with Sephora. I mean, I'm in awe of your calmness, your just the stillness and strength in your performance. And we're gonna keep talking. Who knows? We'll keep talking, send you the script, you know, we'll,
Who
you know,
knows?
it's a
I'm
big, you know,
excited
lots
to
to
see
figure
it.
out.
I want to
Lots to,
see the script, Luke. I
I
want to
know,
read it.
right? Lots to figure out.
Well, she does have a horse named Solomon.
That's true. This is true.
That's right.
I should have had him. I should have done this in the barn.
That's right. Hey, we might need a barn.
Put the shirt on him, and that would have been cute next time.
Yeah. All right.
That's a different one you spur. Different spurring love. I don't. The words didn't. Never mind. The words didn't work.
This is what would happen on set. I'd be like talking about something, they'd be laughing, and I'd be like, guys, but it was fun, except for
It was either a plane
going
going
with the planes.
or a
Oh,
giggle
yeah.
Planes.
or
So just quickly, I'll never forget. It was one of the hardest days of shooting in my entire life. Day 2, the scene with you two outside. Literally, we didn't get one take where I didn't have to hold for planes. And I was literally going to pull my head up, like, oh my gosh, the editor, Adam, brilliant editor, is going to kill me. And I'm looking over, about to lose my mind, and you guys are like playing like footsies and patty cake. And I'm like, I gotta roll with this like they are. So thank you for that.
of course. We were just having a good time at that.
I mean, maybe too much.
It
of a good
was
time.
fun. This was
Thank you
so
for putting up with
fun,
it.
and gosh, and Eric, it was so fun. It was an absolute thrill to work with you. And lightning struck once. What can I say? It's not like you're not busy, and so yeah. Where are you off to next? I know you've got. Can you give some like juicy thoughts about what you want to see for our next David? Like, what do you feel like we should be focusing on? Any
Oh,
nuggets?
I thought about what I should be focusing on.
Both. What are you
I need
focusing
to
on,
be
and
focusing
any
on life
ideas
because
for?
I've let that go for way too long. But there's a lot. Man, I don't know. I think there's so many facets to this story, that go where it tugs you, I think that's wonderful. But we mentioned The Chosen a lot, but I think what really drew me to this, wanting to throw my ideas and pitch behind this short is the stuff that's unlike The Chosen. It's actually much grittier. It's much more modern. It's not as there's more intrigue and political machinations. All of that stuff I find truly fascinating. The crime, I mean, wow, whether it's outright murder or setting people up to be murdered in the battlefield, or the stuff that's going on in bedrooms, all of that. There's not that this should be an X-rated thing, but
Definitely not.
but it's not
Yeah.
not
Right. It has
in
its own
that
lane.
vein. It's got its own lane, and I think that's intriguing about it, and we were talking about making them human. I mean, I think we definitely see all the frailties and all the intrigue of humanity, in its fullness. So I don't know. That's my short answer,
Well,
but I think
Eric, I may need to call you and write down some of that. That was all
the
great.
palette
You
is
hit on everything
wide
that
open.
we are dreaming for the series. So I
I
already told
wish
you I
you
want you to read the script just to give me feedback, I really value you've read how many scripts, so we will be
No,
keeping
I
in
enjoy
touch.
it. I
Yeah.
do enjoy that.
All right, we are going to let Eric and Chloe enjoy the rest of their day, and then it's already after 6. We're a little over, but that's okay. We're going to talk for a few minutes. So Eric and Chloe, thank you again. We are indebted to you both, and I will talk to you both soon.
Thank you,
Good
guys.
night, and
Great to
thank
see you
you.
guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
All right.
Sophia.
Uh-oh. Chloe, we still hear you. There we go. All right.
Well, I guess with that, we have some other questions we need to answer. We need to answer some questions about where we're going from here, right, Sylvia?
We do indeed.
Well, let's talk about the Solomon Saga. We're looking to shoot the pilot in the fall of next year in the series. We do have a great question from Kelly Conboy. She writes, I know this story involves Solomon and King David at the end of his life. What type of show will this be? A drama, a parody? When will the series begin once the pilot is released? So, question for you, Sylvia. Can you give us an overview of the feel and tone of the show and the vision? I think Eric gave us a great intro to what we're looking to try to do here.
He did, yeah. So it's definitely not a parody. I know the show they're talking about, really fun show. It's not even really a drama. It's we call it a biblical thriller. It's a biblical political thriller. It's going to be fast paced, edgy. These are gritty characters. We're not going to shy away from that. We're not going to shy away from old, Old Testament, different worlds. And, I remember that first conversation, Luke, when I think Luke, you, Brad, and I were on this. It was kind of a story call. And we were talking about the character, and we started talking about the Godfather. And people were like, Godfather, what does that have to do with Solomon? Well, it actually has quite a bit to do. If you think about, Michael Corleone's journey, and how he was kind of pulled into the family business and has to kind of lead the charge, and how he started so innocent and introverted, right? I know we all kind of thought, wow, it's kind of a ancient journey of Corleone. If you want to, what do you guys think? What kind of excited you about leaning into that aspect?
Well, definitely the Godfather. I think that was one of my biggest inspirations with my version of the script when
Hmm.
I took on that take, because it was just kind of right there. It was Solomon is the youngest, if not one of the youngest children that uh, David has, and as far as royal lineages go, you ultimately go for the eldest. So it's already such a interesting thing that probably a child that is one of your most favored, because it's a child with Bathsheba, uh, the wife that is considered David's favorite. You you'd imagine that he has a lot of care and favoritism for the child, and that immediately reminded me of The Godfather, and how Michael is treated almost, he wants to be separated the same way Solomon was separated from the family business so he could be cared for. He gets an education. He has this, and he has no interest in the crown. And that's such a, at least for me, a much more of a interesting character archetype to see, like, oh, everything was fine until you had to come into power, and then watching how that power and that need of control and realizing you're really good at power and control eventually like corrupts, as we know it does. And we see throughout Solomon's story in the Bible, in Songs and Kings, that he's very, very good at his job. But ultimately, even in his songs and his poetry, he finds this emptiness by the end of his life that ultimately is like, it's a very age-old story that you see repeated and you can connect to even in modern media, of how people desire and chase after all these physical and material ideas of safety and structure and power, and you realize that at the end of the day they mean and attribute to nothing to your life. And so that idea of Michael Corleone ascending to the age of Godfather and becoming the very thing that he wanted no part of, I think it's an amazing juxtaposition of seeing a main character's growth into his journey. So at least for me, that's why I was very leaning. I was
No,
like, oh, this is a perfect comparison
yeah.
to go from.
And I remember early on, we talked a bit about shows. We have a very similar sensibility,
Yeah.
about shows that we love. And Brad also, like, I think we all just really have a similar sensibility, and, we want to do the same thing with this story. Just to answer back to, I think it was Kelly's question, just she wanted to know a little bit more about kind of what's next. And so we are, like I think Matt mentioned, we are planning, and well, if all goes well, we're really hoping to shoot the pilot in the fall, September, October. But in the meanwhile, you know, we're going to continue working on kind of the arc of the show, getting that pilot script so polished and ready and, you know, good to go. And yeah, so there's, you know, a lot of exciting things. We're, you know, thinking about whether we're shooting internationally, you know, at least some of it, and bigger questions to talk about down the road. I think Matt had a question, or Brad had a question for you next.
Yeah, Luke kind of sort of already answered it to a certain extent.
Okay.
I mean, it's from Grace. You know, I'll just read it. How did Luke become involved in writing of the pilot? Luke, tell us what happened to inspire you to want to be involved in writing the pilot. Was it specifically telling Solomon's story? What sparked with you to want to move from acting to writing on this one?
Oh, well, that's actually, no,
Yeah.
I can't answer more to that one because I've been writing for a while. I've written multiple short films, sketches, scenes. Very early in my career, I have been writing, and oh my goodness, I even wrote some one-act plays at some point in college too. So there's this. I think it was a John Lithgow quote: if you're not acting, be directing. If you're not directing, be writing. If you're not writing, go to a workshop. If you're not going to a workshop, read some plays. Like, as an artist and as a performer, you need to be not just multifaceted in your abilities, but also interested in everything that the artistic spectrum like allows and can engage you. And I will say it's been way more beneficial to me than I could have ever realized. So I'm very glad that I kept up with it, because when it came to Solomon, already I had a comfortability with creating screenplays and researching and having ideas on how to structure interesting scenes, which I just wrote for fun because I was bored, and I had some inclinations on certain scenes that I think would have been really cool to see for the show. And since I was already in contact with all of you, I just sent them over to see what you thought, and they slowly made their way up the chain of command. And
Yeah.
then we got to this point, and we were just, I think we were all just waiting collectively on a pilot. And I didn't expect that my pilot would have gotten as far along as it has now, but I just sent it over as a rough draft, and I thought it would be sent along to a different writer or different official to be edited and structured and written down. But I guess you guys liked it, because apparently you just keep sending me notes and you're like, could you just fix this one little part? I'm like,
Well,
sure.
but Luke, what you bring to it is a freshness. Like I can, you know, I will say, and I've told you this, I sometimes woke up in a little bit of a panic, like, oh my gosh, Luke Dimyan's writing our pilot right now. Because, you know, I couldn't read a pilot that you'd written. I was like, he's really bright. Those scenes you sent us, I mean, kind of knocked my
It was
socks off. And
moving.
that was when I was like, guys, you know, we have the luxury of, we're not in a Russian roulette situation where we have to shoot right now. Like, we have time. We're not talking about shooting until the fall. We want to do this right. There's no rushing. We're not going to rush a draft into filming until it's ready. So you've taken, you know, we've given you a lot of notes. I gave you a ton of notes recently, which I think I'm going to take a pass at first and then go back to you and then Brad. Like, there's a long road ahead, but we're really excited. So we do need to wrap up quickly. Matt, I think you had a question for Brad.
Just a question from Kay. No spoilers, Brad. Wants to know if will the Queen of Sheba be portrayed in the Solomon Saga? If so, talking about her relationship, was it more with Solomon, or is it more geared towards her wisdom and diplomacy? Um, can you answer that for us, please?
Yeah, so I would say this, that our story is heavily driven by female characters. Solomon has queens coming at him from every angle. His mother is Bathsheba. She's seen it all. She's been through it all. She's super intelligent. He makes her a member of his high council. Her, you know, she has his ear. But you know, he's got the Queen of Sheba trekking through the desert to come experience the mystique of the rumors she's hearing about his kingdom because she can't believe what she's hearing. Then you have the Queen of Egypt, marrying Solomon as a means of treaty. So it's the queens will be at the center of our story. And no one, I haven't heard of anyone kind of using that when speaking of the story of Solomon. So that will be at the heart and soul of our story.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, it has been so much fun. It was so fun to get the whole, team together. We're going to try to do these more regularly. We know there's probably a lot of, I haven't been reading or looking, but there's probably a lot of questions. We love
I'll have to get to
questions.
those.
Keep asking. We are growing. This is, we're exploring. We really want to do something different and just make our own lane. So we're excited to start casting. Looking forward to hope, we're going to start talking to casting directors and really start moving into that in the January, February. We're expecting a Chris Corvus drawing to come out soon, Corvus Comics. You saw yours, Luke, and we saw Erick's, beautiful Chloe. Can't wait for that. And so just keep an eye, everyone watching, just please keep an eye on what we're doing, and thank you. It means the world to us. I mean, we all have hopes and dreams. It's so important to us. Like, it is our dream, like my dream, to see this made. I want to tell this story. I want to inspire people. I want to get people talking and reading scripture, and just, we want to welcome all people. We want to have a conversation amongst all nations and all people, and we want to get them looking at the scripture, the Old Testament, thinking about what's leading, what's coming, and we can learn. In this world, we need some hope. And so thank you. I'm gonna say thank you and goodbye for now. And
Yes. And to wrap things up, thank you everyone so much for watching. All of our paths have truly been guided to this point and continues to be so, like with all of the friends that you've met today. All of the people that helped us along the way has just been wonderful, and that's what we want to keep doing. Many of you are asking, how can you help? The reality is just to spread the word for us. That's all we really need. The power of the internet is amazing. We're listening. We're trying to incorporate all the things as best we can. But doing so shows your support, that there's a big audience for this, from all different facets. This will help us as we continue to close funding to film this next year. We have worked so hard to make sure this story honors Solomon. Now we just have to believe. Just want to say, love you guys, love you all, and wish you the best. Talk soon.
all right, thank you guys. Thanks for spreading the word. Keep watching and getting people to do the same. God bless.
Thank
Oh my gosh.